Ever wondered why some of the biggest names in rap can't sleep at night? 8 of hip-hop's finest are sweating bullets as Diddy's trial shakes up the industry, threatening to drag them into a web of secrets, alliances, and potential fallout. Their world just got a lot darker, and the stakes couldn't be higher. 8 iconic rappers are caught in the crosshairs of Diddy's courtroom drama, and they're terrified. From whispered phone calls to sudden cancellations, every move they make feels like it could tip the scales. Stay tuned as we unravel each rapper's ties to Diddy, the reasons behind their fears, and how this trial might change hip-hop forever. First, let's talk about the legendary 50 Cent. Known for his resilience and hustle, 50 Cent built an empire from the ground up. He survived shootouts, betrayals, and multi-million-dollar feuds. But now, even he looks uneasy. Over the years, 50 Cent shared stages with Diddy, collaborating on tracks during Diddy's Bad Boy reunion tours. Although their relationship hasn't always been tight, they've crossed paths enough that whispers started when the indictment dropped. Rumors swirl that 50 Cent was backstage during alleged incidents, overhearing conversations that could land him as a crucial witness. Those close to him say he's been receiving ominous late-night texts reminding him to stay quiet. 50 Cent's fear isn't just about what he knows. It's also about how the verdict could impact his own brand. He launched G-Unit Records and built Cheetah Vision. But if he's tied to testifying, or if evidence challenges his credibility, sponsors could pull out. He's already felt the heat. His East Coast shows have seen a sudden dip in ticket sales as fans speculate about his role in the trial. His lawyers reportedly advised him to avoid any public statements. But 50 Cent's social media silence is almost deafening. An unusual move for someone who thrives on digital chatter. Inside sources reveal 50 Cent's most trusted friends have noticed him pacing his home studio at odd hours, scribbling notes on legal pads. He bought private security after a drone hovered near his California mansion last week. Industry insiders wonder if he's worried about rival squads seizing the chance to settle old scores while his attention is elsewhere. One former Bad Boy affiliate claims 50 Cent even considered leaving the country until things calm down, but decided against it because leaving now would send the wrong message. He's not that kind of man. This sense of vulnerability is new for 50 Cent. He once bragged that nothing could rattle him, but Diddy's trial has shifted that narrative. His next move is critical. Will he stand firm, cooperate quietly, or lean on legal maneuvers to keep his name clean? Only time will tell. But for now, the G-Unit boss is laying low and hoping the storm passes without dragging him too far into the eye. Next up is Drake, the Canadian superstar whose soft, introspective tracks hide a ruthless business mind. Drake and Diddy have tangled before, past collaborations soured by creative clashes. But underneath, there's mutual respect. Now, as evidence surfaces suggesting Drake had knowledge of certain financial transactions tied to Diddy's ventures, he's nervously scanning every headline. Drake wasn't just a guest on Diddy's yacht or a feature on a chart-topping mixtape. He also helped broker deals between Diddy's companies and OVO Sound at the height of their partnership. Private messages leaked to gossip blogs hint at Diddy relying on Drake's advice about overseas promotions. If prosecutors can tie those conversations to illicit funds, Drake could face subpoenas for bank statements, text logs, and possibly forced testimony against a former collaborator. Despite his polished public persona, Drake has confided in close friends about sleepless nights, worrying that the trial will expose more than just business ties. He's always been careful, but Diddy's legal team allegedly offered him a contingency plan: distance himself publicly and let them handle any fallout. That means Drake must stay silent, avoid talking about finances, and let his lawyers negotiate any plea or immunity. Fans have noticed Drake skipping high-profile events, including award ceremonies he usually attends. His social media, once flooded with behind-the-scenes glimpses, is now eerily scarce. Those close to him say he's holed up in his Toronto mansion, working on new music but constantly distracted by legal calls and late-night strategy sessions. Even his studio, usually buzzing with collaborators, now hosts only a skeleton crew. This tension seeps into his creative process. His last verse dropped hints, lines about loyalty and betrayal that fans can't decide are prophetic or promotional. For someone whose lyrics define chart toppers, Now, even his words feel like potential evidence. Drake's delicate balance between staying relevant in hip-hop and staying out of jail means he's walking a tightrope. He's one misstep away from crippling legal entanglements and a PR nightmare that could derail his career. Will Drake ride out the storm by playing it safe? Or will he fight back publicly, risking more exposure? Industry watchers are placing their bets. But until the judge issues her ruling on who must testify, Drake remains in limbo, terrified of what could emerge if Diddy's empire crumbles. Now, let's take a look at Lil Wayne, the fire-spitting legend whose influence spans generations. He's always been a free spirit, experimenting with sounds, signing artists to Young Money, and collaborating with everyone from Eminem to Nicki Minaj. But behind that carefree swagger lies a businessman who knows his livelihood could be at risk if Diddy's trial uncovers damaging ties. Lil Wayne's relationship with Diddy goes back over a decade. Early in his career, Lil Wayne joined forces with Diddy on charity events, performing at benefit concerts, and even showing support for Diddy's music technology startups like Revolt TV. There are whispered accounts that Lil Wayne participated in closed-door meetings about funding independent artists through Diddy's financial channels. If prosecutors allege those channels were funneling illicit money, Lil Wayne could be dragged into testimony, facing questions about how much he knew. Recently, Lil Wayne's legal team reportedly barred him from traveling to Europe, citing concerns that U.S. authorities could detain him on a subpoena if he steps on American soil. This sudden travel restriction stunned fans. He was slated to headline a festival in Amsterdam, only to cancel days before takeoff. The official statement cited personal reasons, but insiders say the real issue was legal safety. Wayne hasn't been this cautious since he faced his own legal troubles back in the 2010s. Those closest to him say Lil Wayne has taken to wearing hoodies even at high-end clubs, hoping to dodge unwanted attention. His once constant stream of Snapchats and late-night tweets about studio sessions has gone silent. Critics worry his silence signals a vulnerability that could threaten upcoming album releases and collaborations. Labels waiting on his next project are reportedly on hold, unsure whether to proceed without knowing how this trial will impact his finances and public standing. Despite all this, Lil Wayne refuses to be painted as a victim. In a recent private studio session, he rapped lines about standing tall when the walls fall and keeping my circle tight. It's a subtle hint that while he's afraid of the trial's implications, he's planning to weather it with his signature grit. He's also quietly met with industry heavyweights to discuss contingency plans, possible endorsements, independent project releases, and legal loopholes to shield his assets. For Wayne, this trial could force him into a corner. Either testify on Diddy's behalf or risk being discredited as an accomplice. With all the money on the line and his legacy under scrutiny, Lil Wayne's fear isn't just for himself. He's worried about the next generation of young money artists who depend on him. If Diddy's downfall triggers legal action against Wayne, everyone in his orbit could feel the tremors. Moving on, let's talk about Rick Ross, the Miami mogul whose booming voice and larger-than-life persona mask a shrewd businessman. Rose's empire includes MMG, Maybach Music Group, luxury real estate, and even a tequila brand. He's collaborated with Diddy on several tracks and they've shared red carpet stages. Yet now, he's one of the most anxious figures in hip-hop circles due to their business entanglements. Ross assisted Diddy in scouting emerging talent for his Bad Boy imprint, and rumor has it they discussed pooling resources to launch a new cigar line. If the prosecution can prove those talks involved laundering money or channeling unreported cash, Rick Ross could face subpoenas demanding his bank statements and communications. He's already hired armored vehicles for transport to court, and his Miami mansion sports new motion sensor lights, security upgrades he hadn't considered until a week ago. Most concerning for Ross is the potential damage to MMG's roster. Artists like Whale, Meek Mill, and Gunplay rely on Rick Ross's reputation for big-picture deals. If Ross is forced to testify, nothing stops rival labels from pouncing on talented signees, offering them quick payouts to jump ship. Insiders say Rose spent nights on FaceTime, reassuring his artists that they'll be protected. He's even asked MMG to freeze new signings until the trial cools down, fearing any fresh additions could be collateral damage. Rick Ross's trademark baritone has become quieter. His recent interviews avoid any mention of Diddy, MMG, or the trial. Social media, once a showcase for new gear and business ventures, now only highlights his children and workout routines. Word is he's training for a charity boxing match, partly to distract from the legal drama and partly to raise funds for defense costs. But that only highlights how close the trial has hit home, something Rose never saw coming. While he exudes confidence in private, Ross confided in a trusted confidant that he's terrified of the trial's ripple effects on his brand partnerships with Ciroc and Belair. Even if the court exonerates him, the lingering association with Diddy's alleged crimes could scare away investors. For someone who built his image on luxury and excess, the mere hint of scandal is toxic. Rick Ross's fear is palpable. It's not just legal jeopardy he faces, but the possibility that his entire empire could crumble. Now, Meek Mill. Rising from Philly's streets, Meek carved his name into rap royalty with anthems like Dreams and Nightmares. His friendship with Diddy started when Diddy noticed him freestyling at a club. They formed a personal bond. Late-night studio sessions, exchanged verses, and Diddy even invested in Meek's philanthropic efforts in Philadelphia. But as Diddy's trial unfolds, Meek Mill is sweating the small stuff. Every detail from those cozy studio hangs now feels like evidence. Meek was in the studio with Diddy just weeks before the indictment, contributing hooks to a track Diddy promised would drop on Revolt TV. Since the trial began, the unreleased music has vanished from the schedule, and Meek's Instagram posts of them together have been deleted. His legal counsel fears that prosecutors will demand his laptop, forcing him to reveal project files that could show Diddy providing Meek with funds under suspicious labels. Meek's anxiety extends beyond personal risk. He's now worried about his role as a criminal justice advocate. He built a brand championing prison reform, but if he's subpoenaed to testify against an old friend, critics could accuse him of hypocrisy. He's already been confronted by activists asking why he hasn't spoken up about Diddy's case, and he's caught between defending a friend and protecting his reputation as a reform crusader. That tension has left him emotionally drained, repeating in interviews that everyone deserves a fair shake, but refusing to elaborate. Sources say Meek Mill has been spending more nights at the DC house of a close political ally, trying to blueprint a PR strategy that allows him to stay neutral. He's handed draft statements to his publicist and demanded they be vetted by trial attorneys. Meanwhile, his last album rollout was put on indefinite hold. Advertising budgets frozen, VIP fan events canceled, and radio promotions paused. Meek's team fears that any misstep could backfire. If he appears uninvolved, fans wonder if he's lost touch. If he speaks out, he risks incriminating himself. Psychologically, Meek's fear is eating at him. Those close describe him as jittery, nails bitten down, avoiding eye contact in groups, and habitually checking legal apps on his phone. He even considered sending his family overseas until the trial concludes, but knew that disappearing would raise eyebrows and spark tabloid frenzy. For Meek Mill, the fight for justice suddenly feels personal and frighteningly unpredictable. Next, The Game. Born and raised in Compton, he rose to fame under Dr. Dre's mentorship, eventually carving a niche with his raw lyrics about street life. Over the years, The Game and Diddy collaborated on philanthropic projects like rebuilding community centers in LA. When the trial hit, The Game felt compelled to stand by Diddy until he realized how deep the case went. The Game's name surfaced in court documents because he attended a private meeting at Diddy's Bel Air mansion where they discussed charity work and marketing strategies. Prosecutors allege that some of those charitable funds were laundered to cover lavish parties. The Game insists he thought everything was above board, but that claim might not hold up if prosecutors present bank records showing odd transactions. Now, he's terrified of being labeled an accessory, despite his insistence that he was just there to help rebuild a gym for underprivileged kids. Since the trial started, The Game's outlets have been unusually quiet. His Instagram, once a stream of workout clips and new music teases, now only shares inspirational quotes. Industry sources say he canceled a planned feature on a high-profile album because he didn't want his voice distracting from another artist's clean reputation. Even travel to his hometown concerts became dicey. Promoters worry that a subpoena could arrive at any moment, forcing him to cancel shows and incur heavy penalties. Behind closed doors, The Game's fear shows up in frantic phone calls with his security team. He's avoiding high-risk areas, suspicious of any flyovers or unusual van activity near his homes. At one point, he considered faking a music video shoot in Texas to buy time, but realized legal teams would see through it. Those close to him say he's been reluctant to share personal feelings publicly, but songs in his recent recording sessions hint at paranoia, lyrics about eyes watching from the shadows, and friends turning into foes. It's clear that this trial has tapped into something primal, the fear of betrayal and the loss of control. For a man whose reputation is built on fearless authenticity, being terrified of the trial is a humbling experience. If forced to testify, the game risks burning bridges with former allies and betraying the trust of fans who look to him for real talk. Yet refusing to cooperate could lead to legal consequences. He's stuck in a corner, balancing loyalty and self-preservation. Only when the judge rules on who must take the stand will we see if the game holds his ground or folds under pressure. Let's shift to French Montana, the Moroccan-American rapper whose smooth flow and party anthem style made him a household name. He and Diddy go way back, once roommates in a studio house in Miami, hustling to break into the industry. That proximity cemented a lifelong friendship. But now, French Montana's early days of exchanging cassette tapes and hustling for promotion feel like potential evidence. Court filings reveal that when French was launching Coke Boys Records, Diddy loaned him substantial seed money. The prosecution claims some of those funds originated from unreported sources. French insists he believed it was legitimate investment. He's worried the court won't buy that defense, so he's scrambling to produce receipts, contracts, and witness affidavits in his defense. French's unease is evident in his sudden shift from Instagram live sessions in the studio to silence. His last post with Diddy, a smiling backstage selfie, was quickly deleted after Diddy's arrest. One insider suggests he's been searching storage units for old paperwork, trying to trace every cent that moved between his label and Diddy's accounts. That means late nights in dimly lit storage facilities, dusting off cardboard boxes filled with receipts, contracts, and tapes, afraid that any missing document could spell disaster. He's also concerned about public perception. If fans think he was knowingly complicit, his street credibility, which he honed since his days selling CDs on the Bronx streets, could vanish. French fears losing endorsement deals with brands like Monster Energy and Adidas, who don't want to be affiliated with scandal. Rumors suggest his legal team has proposed a public statement asserting complete separation from any wrongdoing, but Diddy's team vetoed it, worried that any statement might conflict with broader legal strategy. In private conversations, French admits anxiety has sapped his creative spark. He's skipped studio sessions, canceled feature commitments, and postponed his next album's release. When he does record, his bars reflect paranoia, lines about lost brothers in the courtroom, and money-chasing ghosts. Every loose comment he once made about Diddy in interviews now feels like a ticking time bomb. Even casual mentions of "my big brother's hustle" are potential ammunition. French Montana's nightmare scenario is being hauled into the courtroom, forced to explain months of financial transactions in front of federal prosecutors. If the judge deems him a material witness, prosecutors could detain him on contempt charges if he tries to dodge. For someone who climbed from immigrant roots to rap stardom, the fear of being felled by paperwork is both humiliating and deeply frightening. Finally, let's talk about Whale, another MMG star who's been maneuvering carefully around the Diddy storm. Born in DC, Whale rose to fame with smooth, poetic verses and an unapologetic love for his hometown. He and Diddy collaborated on charitable campaigns, often headlining festivals that raised money for youth programs. Those events now lie under a microscope as prosecutors dig into whether donations were funneled through shell accounts to conceal lavish spending. Whale's name surfaces because he co-hosted a benefit concert in Miami that doubled as a pitch meeting for potential Diddy investors. Lawyers allege that during the after-party, Diddy's accountants handed out envelopes containing unmarked checks. Whale insists he thought those checks were sponsorship payments, not illicit transfers. The trial's sudden attention to those parties has Whale terrified. He knows that proving ignorance won't be easy if tax records show mismatched dates or amounts. He's responded by instructing his management to freeze charitable disbursements and to stop publicizing any philanthropic events until his legal team clears all documentation. For someone whose brand hinges on giving back, that move feels like cutting off his own identity. Whale's fans have noticed a more withdrawn attitude on social media. No more motivational tweets or inspirational stories about giving back. Instead, he started sharing simple studio photos devoid of any context. Sources close to Whale describe him as rarely smiling these days. He spent late nights in rented conference rooms with accountants and lawyers, combing through bank statements line by line. He installed blackout curtains in his DC studio to avoid being noticed coming and going. He even turned down invitations to celebrate MMG's anniversary. No to risks, no matter how small, so he doesn't get pulled in. Whale's fear is twofold. If he's called as a witness, he risks having to reveal financial records that could show undisclosed income. If he refuses, he faces contempt charges. His biggest dread is that a jury might interpret his silence as guilt. At a recent closed event, he confided in a close friend, "I'm not ready to be the next big name dragged through that courtroom." He's already lost sleep over how his name might be smeared on gossip blogs, derailing his plans to launch his new label. For Whale, the horror is that his genuine efforts to uplift communities could be seen as cover for wrongdoing. The worry that his altruism might be weaponized against him keeps him awake, haunted by thoughts of having to testify about decisions he made in good faith. As the trial date looms, Whale's fear intensifies. Every call might be a summons, every meeting might be evidence, and every document could become a smoking gun. These 8 rappers are staring down the barrel of Diddy's trial, each grappling with fear, loyalty, and the possibility that their legacies could be rewritten. From boardroom meetings to charity concerts, every choice they made is now under scrutiny. Which rapper's predicament struck you hardest? Drop a comment below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more inside stories from the front lines of music and culture.